First Nations, Kekite, Katsi, Tuasan, Samiamo, Quantal, and Kikutilam. And it's always a pleasure and honor to welcome and see friends here, including Premier Eby, Mr. Osborne, Member of Parliament from Richmond East, Stephenson, Parmbans, of course, my dear friend and brother-like friend, Randeep Sarai from across the street, Surrey Center, and Mr. Mio from Richmond Center. And of course, my dear friend, Chrystia Freeland, welcome to the beautiful part of British Columbia, right here in Surrey, Newton. And I am here today as a host MP. You know, when we looked around this lab, and I'm sure that everyone that has had a tour from PR is very impressed, because this month is an Engineers National Month, and I'm also a fellow member of the Fellow of Engineers Canada, and I'm very excited to have all the engineers, scientists, and technical specialists that come together from around the globe, including our recent arrival, Victoria, from Ukraine, that pool their expertise and their knowledge together to make this a world-renowned facility and provide services in electrical utilities, equipment manufacturing, and automotive industry. With this note, I would love to introduce the first speaker, who's a dear friend and a colleague, and one of the hardest working members of Parliament as well, and very passionate, when it comes to serving Canadians. And no other but Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland. Please, welcome.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, well, I get a little bit of a step here. Thank you very, very much, Suk, for that warm introduction. Thanks to the amazing BC MP colleagues who are here with me, Suk, Randeep, Wilson, Parm. Great to be here with Team BC, also with the Premier, with Josie. And above all, thank you so much for the amazing tour of PowerTech Labs. What a wonderful, you see some of the people who work here standing behind us. They are such a wonderful, inspiring, brilliant group of Canadians and British Columbians. I sort of feel like in the past hour, I have seen Canada's future, and it's a pretty amazing future. So thank you very, very much. So I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are on the traditional, unceded, and shared territories of the Coast Salish peoples. I am especially glad to be here with Premier Eby. He has been a wonderful partner for our government. His entire team has been. And I know our two governments will continue to make great progress for the people of British Columbia and the people of Canada. And as I just said, I am just thrilled to have met the incredible people who work here at PowerTech Labs. And I want to say to you, to the people who are here with us right now, and to all of your colleagues, the innovative work you do is truly remarkable. We need your work today, and the work you are doing will be even more important for Canada and the world in the years to come. Finding new ways to deliver clean and affordable electricity and hydrogen to the people of British Columbia and to the people of Canada is going to be critical to building Canada's clean economy. And it is going to be the people who are here with us today and hundreds of thousands of Canadians, millions of Canadians like them, who are going to do that work, who are going to make those inventions. And so I just really want to start by saying thank you very, very much. Thank you for what you have been doing. Thank you for the work you do every single day. Thank you for the work ahead. Before I speak more about the work we need to do to build Canada's clean economy and about the role that clean electricity will play, I'd like to highlight a few important points about where the Canadian economy is today. Le Canada a connu une reprise remarquable après la récession causée par la COVID-19. L'année dernière, le Canada a enregistré la plus forte croissance économique du G7. Le Canada a le déficit le plus faible et le ratio dette-PIB le plus bas du G7. Quelques 830 000 Canadiennes et Canadiens de plus qu'avant la pandémie sont sur le marché du travail. Nous avons récupéré 126% des emplois perdus au cours des premiers mois de la pandémie par rapport à seulement 114% aux États-Unis. Et grâce à notre système pan-canadien abordable d'apprentissage et de garde d'enfants, que la Colombie-Britannique a été la toute première province à mettre en place avec nous. Merci, chers collègues. Le taux de participation des Canadiennes au marché du travail a atteint le record de 85,7% en février. Inflation has now fallen for 8 months in a row, and the Bank of Canada predicts that it will drop to just 2.6% by the end of this year. With these strong economic fundamentals, the budget I tabled on Tuesday comes at a very important time for our country. In the near term, we're faced with a slowing global economy, elevated interest rates around the world, and inflation that is still too high. At the same time, Canada must respond to two fundamental shifts in the global economy: the race to build the clean economies of the 21st century and our allies' accelerating efforts to friend-shore their economies by building their critical supply chains through democracies like our own. Our budget is a direct answer to these essential challenges, and here's what we will deliver. First, new, targeted, temporary inflation relief for the vulnerable Canadians who need it the very most, through a grocery rebate that will provide up to $467 for a family right here in Surrey. A stronger universal public health care system, including dental care for millions of Canadians. You know, today in Canada, you can tell the size of someone's paycheck or how much money their parents make by their smile. That's wrong, and we're going to change that. Last, we will deliver significant investments to build Canada's clean economy and create great middle-class careers for people here in Surrey, across BC, and from coast to coast to coast. Now, that last point is really, really important. Our friends and allies are racing to build the clean economies and the net zero industries of tomorrow. The world today is in the throes of the most significant economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution. Today, and in the years to come, Canada must either meet this historic moment, meet this remarkable opportunity, or we will be left behind as the world's democracies build the clean economy of the 21st century. That's why our budget makes the most significant investment Canada has ever made to build our clean economy. And that is also, of course, the most significant investment we have ever made in climate action. This is about bringing investment to our communities, creating good middle-class jobs, and protecting our environment at the same time. We're going to make Canada a reliable supplier of clean energy to the world. And from critical minerals, which BC has in abundance, as I know the Minister is very well aware, to electric vehicles, like the trucks the Premier and I tried out today, we're going to ensure that Canadian workers mine and process and build and sell and invent the goods and the resources that our allies need. We're going to build big things here in BC. I mean, look around us. Whether it is a critical mineral mine that will create thousands of good jobs or clean technology companies that will help solve the problems of the 21st century. We're going to make Canada the very best place in the world for businesses to invest, because that means more vibrant, prosperous communities and more good careers for Canadians. And we're going to make Canada a clean electricity superpower. BC Hydro, we're counting on you, because clean electricity is the backbone of a clean economy. You could say it's going to be the railway for Canada of the 21st century. Canada will need to more than double the amount of clean electricity we generate today if we're going to reach net zero by 2050. Clean electricity will be essential to creating jobs in clean industries like hydrogen and clean steel and aluminum, and to ensuring we can power our cars and homes for a generation to come. Ultimately, Canada's continued economic prosperity depends on significant investments today in building a sustainable, secure, and affordable electricity grid. So, in the years to come, we will build a clean electricity grid that connects Canadians from coast to coast to coast, protects our environment, and delivers cleaner, more affordable electricity, and more of it to Canadians and Canadian businesses, all while creating great jobs for people right across BC, including great careers at places like PowerTech here in Surrey. And before I close, I want to point out another element of our budget, because I know it matters a lot to people here in BC. In the budget, we took a number of major steps to crack down on money laundering and terrorist financing, and to ensure that Canada is never a haven for the dirty money of criminal organizations, oligarchs, or corrupt officials, such as those of Russia, which is terrorizing Mariupol, the city Victoria has fled from and where she still has family who are being held under occupation, such as those of China or such as those of Iran. The measures we introduced include criminalizing unregistered money services businesses and ultimately ensuring that the federal government will respond to all of the remaining recommendations of the Cullen Commission, which Premier Eby established as Attorney General and which made BC a national leader in tackling money laundering. So I do want to take this opportunity to personally thank Premier Eby for his leadership and his advice on this essential issue. The federal government is following the BC playbook here, and I'm grateful to you, Premier, for blazing the trail. Whether it's tackling money laundering, building our clean economy and creating great jobs here in BC, or providing early learning and childcare for $10 a day, I am looking forward to continuing to work together to build an economy that is more secure, more sustainable, and more affordable for the great people here in Surrey, all across BC, and all across Canada. Thank you very much, and I think I'm turning it over now to Premier Eby.
Well, thank you so much, Deputy Prime Minister, and it's wonderful to see everybody here and all the hardworking folks from PowerTech. Wonderful to see you and colleagues, federal colleagues. It's great to tour this amazing facility with you. I'll join in acknowledging the territory of the Coast Salish people and express my gratitude for being here today. It feels like we're in an engineer's playground, and it's a remarkable place of technology and learning and innovation, and it is the spirit of British Columbia that's here. And I can't think of a better place for us to be to celebrate our shared vision with the federal government for the future of British Columbia, for the future of Canada. The challenges in front of us are great. There's no question about it, but we can't help but see the opportunities with all British Columbians of our positioning in the economy of the future. BC is already a clean energy superpower. We have an abundance of clean hydroelectricity. We have a quickly growing hydrogen sector, our booming mining sector, able to provide the critical minerals needed for the future. In fact, Canada is the only place where you can get all the critical minerals you need to power the electrified future we all require. We're home to cutting-edge research facilities, research that's done here for firms from around the world. They come here to test their equipment, and PowerTech is part of one of the largest, PowerTech is the largest energy sector testing and research lab in North America. We're home to 35% of Canada's clean tech firms right here in British Columbia. And we have a strong track record of private investment that's growing our economy in this area. Even traditional industries in British Columbia are showing remarkable leadership around our clean future. Blackwater Mine, the first new mine permitted in almost a decade in British Columbia, entirely electrified. Cedar LNG, the largest indigenous energy infrastructure project in North America, is going to have the lowest emissions of any similar project around the world. It's the kind of project that draws investors that are interested in the environmental and the social impacts of their investments. And for those folks, BC brings a lot to the table. And it's so good to know and to see in the finance minister's budget that we have the federal government as a strong partner for us in this project. Many of our priorities were reflected in Minister Freeland's budget, including streamlining permitting. We know we have to act faster. There is a climate crisis and we need to shift to a clean energy economy quickly. Whether it's around environmental assessments or permits for new projects, we need to be faster. It's good to know the feds are with us on that. To the Canada-wide work on anti-money laundering that the minister talked about. Just yesterday in the legislature, we took new measures to ensure that we know who actually owns the companies that operate in British Columbia, so that private companies are not used to launder money and police don't know who owns the companies that are engaging in this activity. Today in the legislature, a new law that allows police to seize the assets of corrupt officials and gangsters that operate with impunity. And that cannot be the case. Hardworking people who play by the rules, who want a clean, sustainable future for their kids, we are on your side and we are working closely with the federal government to deliver that. It's so nice to hear those shared priorities in Minister Freeland's speech today. Specifically, obviously, we're here at PowerTech. I want to recognize the important response of the federal government to the Inflation Reduction Act that we see south of the border. As our key trading partner makes major investments in the clean economy of tomorrow, we have to respond. And these new tax credits are going to support electrification, hydrogen power, carbon capture technology, clean manufacturing, and so much more. They're going to accelerate work. It's important to understand that it's already underway in our economy, and it's going to make it go faster and supercharge it, to make a bit of a dad joke in this electricity facility. We're going to do it with Chris and the team at BC Hydro. We're going to do it with the private sector, and because the demand for clean power is only going to grow in this province, in neighboring provinces south of the border, and we're moving to a clean energy future. We're not just doing it around business and creating jobs and prosperity in our province, we're also supporting individual British Columbians, helping them to be able to afford to make the choices they want to make. around heat pumps, around transitioning to electric, or ultimately, perhaps hydrogen vehicles as well. The new federal clean electricity investment tax credit is going to continue to build that momentum because we can't afford to slow down. Look, to anyone who says you can't grow the economy except at the cost of the environment, they are wrong. We are proving that every day in British Columbia, and we're going to continue to do so. We have a new energy action framework that protects the environment and is already creating good jobs for people across the province. We're getting rid of inefficient fossil fuel subsidies to big polluters, and we're supporting homegrown innovation and good family supporting jobs in the clean economy like PowerTech Labs right here in Surrey. Also in places like Crofton, at the Crofton Mill, where 100 workers are now back at work, getting rid of single-use plastics by producing items to replace them through forest products. Over the last few months, I've had the opportunity to hear from people around our province about the challenges they face, but without a doubt, people are optimistic about our future, and they should be. We have a skilled workforce, we have abundant resources, we have limitless potential, and we have remarkable partnerships with industry, with First Nations, with workers, with labor, all levels of government. You see our partnership with the federal government today. Together, we can build a stronger and cleaner economy for everybody, one that will power our province for generations to come. And I'd like to turn things over now to Minister Osborne, our Minister for Energy and Mines.
Thank you so much, Premier, Deputy Prime Minister. It's wonderful to see you join our federal colleagues and be surrounded by employees here at PowerTech. It is so good to be here on the territory of the Coast Salish peoples, and really an honor to join everyone here today. I want to say a big thank you to Chris O'Reilly and to Pierre Poulin for the fabulous tour, for all the employees who explained what we were seeing. It looks like a Star Trek set to me. It's absolutely wonderful. And it's really great to see how people are so committed to the innovation and research right here at BC Hydro's PowerTech Labs. Our province is home to abundant energy resources and world-class clean technology, and also a provincial hydrogen strategy that's amping up new projects and investment. We have a skilled and innovative workforce on the leading edge of many emerging technologies, and it's clear that British Columbia is both a home and a destination for those who want to carve out a niche on the clean energy spectrum. We have so much to offer here. With about 98% of our electrical power coming from clean, renewable resources, mostly powered by water, we're already a leader in clean electricity generation in North America, and it gives us a tremendous advantage over many jurisdictions as we work to reduce carbon emissions and fight climate change. The Clean Electricity Investment Tax Credit offers a new advantage as we invest in the clean, renewable energy that we know we need to electrify our economy. And we have to do it faster, we have to move faster, do more if we're going to meet those climate targets. That's exactly why we're launching a BC Hydro task force to do exactly that work. The task force will accelerate the planning and procurement of new electricity infrastructure that's needed to power more of our homes, our buildings, and our industries with clean energy instead of fossil fuels. Here in British Columbia, we are on the front lines of climate change, and we have seen in recent years the devastating impact of record wildfires, heat waves, and flooding on people and communities. British Columbians have made it abundantly clear that we need to meet our climate targets, and it's critical that we work together to continue this work with the federal partners that we have here, as you see today, to move our economy forward as a clean energy leader. Thank you so much.
Merci d'être venu. On va maintenant prendre les questions des médias. If you have a question, if you could just come over to the microphone here and state your name and news organization before posing your question. We'll do one question, one follow-up. If you need to stay with your camera, just raise your hand and we will come over to you with the microphone, but maybe after we've got through the line here at the standing mic, please.
Hi there, Mike Hager, Globe and Mail. Thanks for taking questions. I'm just wondering, Premier Eby, what you think of the federal budget's housing funding. There's been a lot of criticism that there's no new broad supply measures. I mean, there is funding for Indigenous housing, but apart from that, advocates and people in the real estate industry have panned it for not having many broad new measures or initiatives for housing supply during this crisis?
Well, I think everybody knows that if we're going to be successful on the issue of housing and the housing crisis that we face, the fact that people need to be able to find a place that they can actually afford to live in, that's close to work, that meets the needs of their family, is going to take all levels of government, including Indigenous governments. And I assure British Columbians that the government of BC is there for them on this. We have partnered with the federal government on many different projects, and there are many more to come. I'm glad to see in the federal budget the recognition of the need for the federal government to step it up in terms of Indigenous housing, on-reserve housing, as well as urban housing for urban Indigenous people, to make sure that we're meeting our needs here in British Columbia. There are some very significant parcels of federal housing funding from the last budget that have yet to be deployed in a significant way in British Columbia. And the piece, my message for the finance minister has been and will continue to be that British Columbia needs to see our fair share of that funding. Whether it's the Municipal Accelerator Fund, whether it's the Rapid Response to Homelessness Fund, we need to see our fair share of that funding here in British Columbia because we're a good partner. When they bring capital dollars here to build housing, we have the operating funding. If they have surplus from other provinces that is unspent, bring it to British Columbia because we're going to put it to work right here. We're an excellent partner for that. The key for us is that we're working in partnership. And so for those funds that are there, and they are significant, especially around the Accelerator Fund, that as we speed up municipal processes to deliver housing, that funding is working with us on our provincial initiatives as well.
Deputy Prime Minister Freeland, so critics have kind of, said that there isn't any new supply funding. Out of BC's decade-long plan to build 114,000 new affordable units, how many, up until 2028, I think, how many of those units does your government plan on funding and how? And what do you say to critics who say there's no urgency in this budget to address the housing crisis? The family you mentioned in Surrey, if they don't own now, likely will be shut out of owning and maybe finding it increasingly hard to pay rent.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I have three things to say in answer to that. The first is where the Premier began with the significant $4 billion investment in Indigenous housing, including urban Indigenous housing. I think that is one of the most shameful gaps in Canada today, particularly in cities in Western Canada, including Vancouver. And I am very glad that this budget makes a significant and necessary investment there. Second, we put forward in the budget last year a huge housing plan, $10 billion plus a comprehensive set of measures to get homes built in Canada. And this was a multi-year plan. You don't deploy $10 billion in 1 month or in 1 year. And in fact, Premier Eby referred to one of the key elements of that plan, which is the housing accelerator. That is $4 billion. The specifics of that accelerator were announced by the Prime Minister just a couple of weeks ago. That's $4 billion that is in the fiscal framework. It hasn't been spent yet. And as the Prime Minister announced earlier this month, we have now opened up a portal for applications. The idea of this is it's $4 billion, which is there for municipalities across Canada to apply for and to get. So for all the municipalities who are here, and I said this at the Vancouver Board of Trade this morning, I'm going to say it at the Surrey Board of Trade later today, come up with your plan to build more homes. Our ambition is that with these $4 billion, we will stimulate the construction of 100,000 additional homes. And we're not going to be prescriptive. Canada is a huge country with lots of specific challenges when it comes to getting housing built. And what we're saying with this $4 billion is municipalities, we know housing is a crisis across the country. Tell us what your plan is to get more homes built. Tell us how some of that money can help you build those homes, and we will write a check. And $4 billion will mean we can write a lot of checks. I love Premier Eby's point that he wants BC to get its fair share of the housing money. I think I kind of heard him say he'd like BC to get more than its fair share. I actually really warmly endorse that. I want every single premier, every single mayor, every single city councillor across Canada to see that $4 billion in the Housing Accelerator Fund, to say, yeah, housing is a crisis in my community. Here is my plan. I'm going to submit my plan. It's going to be the best plan. I'm going to submit it the most quickly. I'm going to get the money. I'm going to build homes. Because the reality is, and this is my third point, I agree with the premise of the question that housing is a central challenge in Canada. I think it's a challenge which is connected to our strengths. And one of Canada's huge strengths is we are a country that welcomes immigrants. And that is pretty rare in the industrialized world today. And it is fantastic. It makes us a great country. I mean, look at the people standing behind us. Very, very many of them have come to Canada from other places, and they make us so much richer and so much stronger. But they all need a place to live. So if we're going to be welcoming more new Canadians, we have to build homes, and we're going to do it. Avec plaisir. Alors, on est complètement d'accord que le logement est un enjeu principal pour le Canada et pour la Colombie-Britannique. On est prête et maintenant on déjà travaille en étroite collaboration avec la province de Colombie-Britannique, avec les municipalités. On a mis dans le budget de l'année dernière un plan compréhensif de 10 milliards de dollars des investissements dans le logement, incluant 4 milliards de dollars qui est là pour aider et encourager les municipalités en la construction de logements. Cet plan a été lancé par le Premier ministre il y a quelques semaines. J'encourage toutes les municipalités de tout le Canada et de la Colombie-Britannique de présenter leur plan pour avoir leur juste part de ces 4 milliards de dollars. Et pour finir, c'est important de souligner aussi qu'on a investi dans ce budget 4 milliards de dollars dans le logement pour les Autochtones. Très important, très nécessaire. Je suis fière qu'on a pu faire ça. Merci.
For Deputy Prime Minister, Dobry den.
Dobry den!
This is Al Cohen, Global News, and this is for Keith Baldry, our Legislative Bureau Chief. The inquiry report on the Nova Scotia mass shooting is highly critical of the RCMP. What impact could those findings... Minister, hang on one second. What impact could those findings have on provinces that are considering changes to who provides policing services in some jurisdictions?
Well, thank you for the question. I think I'd like to start by reflecting on how tragic and really just gut-wrenchingly horrific that mass shooting was. I think all Canadians feel that way. And of course, you know, we are a whole country away from where it happened. So I think it's appropriate for all of us to, you know, pause and think for a moment with sympathy and compassion about the people of Nova Scotia who were most directly harmed and affected. The report was an important report. The Prime Minister was there to listen to the conclusions in person. Our government is now going to carefully reflect on those conclusions and respond thoughtfully to them. Thank you.
Justin Borges,
Дякую.
CTV News.
As we say, дякую.
This question is for Premier Eby, please. This comes from my colleague in CTV Calgary. Premier, what are your thoughts on Alberta Premier Smith speaking with the street preachers facing COVID charges about the ways that the Premier can help his criminal case?
Well, I think Alberta politics is going to play out, and the Albertan people are going to resolve this for Alberta. For our part in British Columbia, we're proud of our record on COVID, and it was an incredibly challenging time for British Columbians. And we're obviously still recovering from the pandemic in many different ways. And it's an important responsibility, certainly, for our provincial government to continue supporting British Columbians as we recover. And whether it's small businesses, whether it's individuals struggling with mental health and addiction, whether it's downtown cores, whether it's transit. You've seen our $500 million investment in supporting TransLink to recover ridership and ensure we're not reducing services. All of this support around coming out of the pandemic is critically important for British Columbians, and that's where we're focused, is British Columbia.
Was the conversation that Smith had appropriate, and would you yourself have conducted yourself in that similar manner?
You know, I think as a Premier of British Columbia, my job is to represent British Columbians on the priorities of British Columbians, and so that for them is public safety, that every person has a right to be safe in their communities, to feel safe in their communities when they're going to work or when they're at home. Healthcare, that they get a family doctor, that when they go to hospital, they get the care they need, housing, that they have access to affordable housing, and that we have a clean and secure economy that works for everybody, including through the headwinds that we're seeing globally. I'm not going to weigh in on matters of other provincial politics. My focus is British Columbians every single day, including today, in the important announcement that the Deputy Prime Minister made on her budget and how that's going to support British Columbians in building the kind of province we want.
Sorry, Chuck Jane with the Canadian Press. This question is for the Finance Minister. The EI reform has been promised by the government for a while now. Can you talk about why EI reform was not included in this budget, and at what kind of timeline can we be looking at in terms of an actual EI reform?
Yeah, thank you for the question. There are some important employment measures in this budget. One is the extension of seasonal EI, and I've heard directly from people who are covered by that how important that is for them. I'm glad we were able to do it. Another important employment-related measure is to do with gig workers. This budget includes, I would say, a historic measure to prevent companies from cheating and from treating someone who really is an employee as a contractor. Because when companies do that, they deprive that person of the protections that employees get in Canada and that Canadians deserve. They also mean that person isn't covered by EI contributions and by pension contributions. This budget is a very, very major step forward in giving gig workers, who really actually are full-time employees, the protections that they deserve. Of course, my colleague Carla Qualtrough, a MP from very close to where we are right now, is hard at work on broader EI improvements, and that is important work that has to be done thoughtfully and carefully. Thank you.
And sorry, Minister, one follow-up question. Can you talk about the decision to cut back on foreign aid in the latest budget?
I wouldn't characterize it that way. I believe that Canada has a responsibility to be strong and active around the world. I'm particularly proud of our feminist foreign policy, and we are there, and we're making a very big difference. Canada is the 8th largest foreign aid donor. That is a big deal. This budget also includes $2.4 billion in direct financial aid to Ukraine. I believe that the fight that is happening in Ukraine today is the single most important battle in the world between democracy and dictatorship. I'm very grateful to the brave people of Ukraine for their courage in resisting Putin and resisting this illegal and barbaric invasion. That $2.4 billion that Canada is providing means that Canada will continue to be, at the top of the G7 team when it comes to providing direct financial support for Ukraine so that the brave people of Ukraine can continue to fight this fight. And, it's especially meaningful for me to mention here today because I think a lot of us who had this tour were really emotionally affected by meeting a woman who works here, Victoria. She's an electrical engineer. She has a PhD in electrical engineering. She's from Mariupol, the city, one of the cities that has been so horrifically, brutally occupied by Putin, continues to be occupied. I'm glad that Canada has been able to provide her and her family with shelter. I am so sorry about her family members who are still suffering incredible things in occupied Mariupol. And I'm really grateful for her for being an electrical engineer who was able to work here and contribute to our country. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for questions today.
Okay, thank you.